Hello. Welcome to this candidate debate sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Marin County. I'm Margie Eller with the League of Women Voters. Also with us are Kelly Dunleavy of San Anselmo Fairfax Patch and Ann Laser of the League of Women Voters. They're going to ask the candidate questions, and Linda Deere is our timekeeper. The three candidates with us today are running for 2 four-year terms on the San Anselmo Town Council. They are Ford Green, Doug Kelly, and Lori Lopin. The candidates have been invited to make opening statements, and we're going to go in alphabetical order, 2 minutes each, and we'll begin with Ford.
It's great to talk to you. Times are tough and scary. Money's tight and getting tighter. Climate change looms closer. People are frustrated and scared. Last term, the voters of San Anselmo trusted me to bring my style of straight-talking honesty and accountability, intelligent hard work, and competent decision-making to the San Anselmo Town Council. Some doubters were concerned that I would not be able to collaborate with my colleagues because I had too much conviction in my principles. I knew then that wasn't true, and by my performance, I've proved it. I've moved San Anselmo forward to deal with deadly greenhouse gases and climate change by joining Marin Clean Energy, a model for the state and nation, dramatically reducing our carbon footprint. I've protected the character of our neighborhoods. To halt the construction of Bigfoot houses, I led the town subcommittee, which compromised among interest groups to adopt a floor area ratio. To halt digging out the earth, the technique to avoid residential height limitations, the council adopted the excavation ordinance I brought. In the toughest economy, we have a balanced budget. This year, almost. I have enacted the innovative program wherein our police department shares services with Twin Cities. Our employees are now bearing some of the burden of their pensions. I have fought to preserve the natural heritage and egalitarian values of Marin County and the Ross Valley that I love. I've used my office to oppose desalination, smart meters, and ridiculous sewage rate hikes. I transform public meetings into vibrant communication forums where citizens are heard, respected, and appreciated. With openness, warmth, and humor, I lead by example so that decision makers are less afraid to publicly grapple with the challenges modern life presents.
Doug?
Thanks very much. I'm Doug Kelly. I'm the chairman of the San Anselmo Park and Recreation Commission, and I've been serving that way for 6 years, 2 years as the chair. I've been involved in a lot of other town events in that time. Originally, I joined the sign committee, and I've served as a coach in San Anselmo baseball and a coach in West Marin Little League. I'm a dad. I have 3 kids in the school district. 2 now at Drake, a junior and a freshman, and 1 still at Brookside Upper. I've been involved in the Oktoberfest and Winterfest. I've donated my time and energy to the schools, and I've donated my time and energy to the town. I worked towards getting Red Hill Community Park built, and now that it's built, it's beautiful. It's a jewel in the town, and I believe that it is a great addition to the real lit fields that we have. As Park and Recreation Commission Chair, I've looked at the numbers in that department. I've worked on the budgets there. And as the owner of a business here in San Rafael, Performance POS, I understand how to work a budget, how to look at numbers, and I bring a business person's outlook to the committee. I think that I would be a good counselor because I see things as an owner of a business. We've faced these hard times as well as everyone else. And we've had to make changes. We've had to do things differently. During that time, I've expanded my business. We now have operations in Los Angeles. That was hard, but we had to do it. And we found ways to make money in a hard economy. We have hard times in San Anselmo, but it's a great town. All we need to do is work hard, work together, and we can solve the problems we have. They're not insurmountable. They just need dedication, they need a hard look, and they need people who will be willing to work together, as I've always done in this town.
Lori?
Thank you. I'll tell you a little bit about myself, my history. I was raised in Marin. I've spent the last 20 years in San Anselmo raising my children with my husband. I've had 2 businesses. The first one was a bookkeeping business, which I built up to the point where I was eventually able to sell it to one of my employees so that I could spend more time with my kids in the schools. Second one is a successful marketing business that my husband and I have, and I am a CFO for that business. I've had a lot of civic involvement the last 20 years. It all started in the schools. It started with the Oktoberfest, which Doug did mention. It's our local school fundraiser, and I was co-chair of that, and we managed to turn that into a program that doubled its profits the first year. I was then involved with the parent club, and in the parent club, we then took that model, which was used at the different schools for fundraising, and made it into a district fundraising side, which gives you more bang for your buck, so to speak, so that you can bring in more value. I've worked with Supervisor Hal Brown on countywide a Safe Routes to Schools program, which we then brought into the schools. I also worked with him on the campaign to establish the Transportation Authority of Marin, and then became the first chair of the Citizens Oversight Committee for TAM. Meanwhile, I was elected to the Ross Valley School District Board of Trustees, where I helped develop and implement the strategic plan that the district is still working with. I also helped establish Red Hill Community Park, but what I did is I helped negotiate and balance the needs of the competing groups, the dog owners, the neighbors, the community members. That was my part of it. Currently, I'm on the San Anselmo Capital Program Monitoring Committee, and I'm also the backup for 2 of the council members in case of a town emergency. I'd like to keep San Anselmo a safe, family-friendly town by being fiscally responsible, helping to bring and keep business in San Anselmo, and encouraging local buying, and getting the community more involved. Thank you.
All right, now for the questions. The candidates will have 2 minutes to respond. And first, Kelly Dunleavy of the San Anselmo Patch. We'll start and we'll direct the question to Doug.
Okay.
Okay, great. I wanted to start with a question we actually got from a reader, and there was certainly something I was going to ask.
Okay.
As you know, a lot of businesses are struggling in town, particularly in the downtown, and there was at one point a plan to revitalize southern San Anselmo. That plan sort of died out. Do you have any plans for how to revitalize downtown? What would you do to revitalize downtown? Did you agree with the plan for southern San Anselmo?
Well, let me put it this way. I spoke to Scott Couture, who was involved in that just recently, and I'd like to have the town council work more closely with them. And I absolutely think the town can have a positive effect on the businesses that come in. One of the things you'll find is we can't control all of the empty businesses. I'll give you a good example. Down at Lower San Anselmo, there's an empty building with a for rent sign. We've have a business that might be interested in that. They're not responding to calls. They're not really interested in renting it at this time. There's 14 people involved in it. And it's really challenging. You can't take control of the business. What you can do is create an environment where businesses want to come because they know they're wanted there. I want to work with the Lower San Anselmo merchants. I want to work with the people who want to plan that. Was the plan they had perfect? No, it doesn't have to be perfect. It has to be a plan. We have to start with something. And look at what happened here in San Rafael. In San Rafael, when I first moved here 18 years ago, we had a Macy's. It wasn't really doing a lot of business. The downtown 4th Street corridor really wasn't doing that well. And there was a plan put together. Businesses were attracted. Businesses were courted. And what happened as a result of that is a better downtown San Rafael. I want to do that in San Anselmo. We have a great downtown. We can expand that. We also have to remember as well, there are other areas of town besides just the downtown. But I absolutely want to work with them. I don't think the council did anything for them. I don't think that was right. I'd like to see more help for that. And what we can't make rules that are going to create a different downtown. We can create an atmosphere that will change it for the better. And that's what I'm dedicated to doing. And I have the skills to do that.
Lori?
Thank you. As far as the visioning committee was concerned, I think they had some great ideas. However, it's very hard to make plans when there really isn't any money to support them. What has been done in downtown San Anselmo by volunteers and by the town has helped to make it much more attractive. But the time for further visioning, might be a little more down the road when the economy is a little bit better. Everyone who comes to San Anselmo for the first time, I've been talking to a lot of first-time visitors recently, they say how cozy and welcoming it seems to be, and I think that's really a good point. It is a very nice, cozy town. It's a family-friendly town. It's not real wild at night, and there are times that people would like to have a place to go and perhaps get a cup of coffee after dinner or something, and perhaps we can work on that. But something else, as a business owner myself, and I own property myself in Fairfax, we have a tenant. And going through the last few years with our tenant, it hasn't been easy for them. You know, they're a store, and it hasn't been easy, but we've worked with them. And that's something that I was talking with the business owners, some of them in town. They would like it if the town council would be a little more involved with speaking with the building owners, perhaps making them understand where they're coming from. You know, if it's something where the rent's going to be a little late, maybe there's some way to work with them. That's a possibility. I think it's very important to fill the empty storefronts, even if it's something where there's a display of art, at least so it's something to look at, as long as it's not empty. And I'd like to work with owners to make sure that that is the case, and with the town. There might be a way to put the 5 merchant areas together, or there's 5 different groups in town. I'd like to help bring them together to get one vision for the town and try and move it along that way, perhaps advertising businesses a little more so that people do want to come in and they want to buy locally and they want to, you know, go to our restaurants. Thank you.
Ford?
During the time that I've been a council member, I was on the Economic Development Subcommittee. And what our immediate accomplishment was to bring the disparate 5 business groups that Lori just mentioned together once a month for a meeting. And in that, you really learn that there's, while all the businesses look to local government to do something, to fix economic problems, and it's not practically within our power to do that. And when you take that to the proposition that was forwarded regarding South San Anselmo, there were multiple property owners. And really what they seemed to want the town to do was to act as a redevelopment agency so that that whole area would be redeveloped. We're not empowered that way. We couldn't do that. There were practical difficulties, not the least of which was what the Southern San Anselmo development people wanted was for the town to put the imprimatur of its approval on their plans before there were any plans. And it's just not practically feasible to have a special private interest group that gets different treatment than everybody else does. And then finally, with respect to the visioning meetings that happened, there were 3 of them. Many town people came out, and the result of those meetings largely was that people liked things the way they were. They didn't want buildings that exceeded 30 feet.
Now Annie Laser of the League of Women Voters will ask a question, and she'll direct this question to Lori.
In difficult economic times, some jurisdictions feel they have to defer maintenance and modernization of the infrastructure. How would you describe the condition of the town's infrastructure?
Our roads are terrible, but I happen to be on the Capital Monitoring Committee, and I do know that we are doing the best we can. We're going to be slurry sealing in 2 weeks now. It was postponed a week. But we're going to be putting the slurry seal on those roads that are good enough to be able to do that on. We've been maintaining some of the worst roads. We've had flood problems. We've had road cave-ins. We've had to deal with those first. I think as far as anything, for instance, there's been talk about how do we fix the tower in San Anselmo. Well, there's no money in the general fund for that. That's not something that's going to happen right away. Our economy would have to really change for it to be to a point where we could just say, okay, let's fix it. I have a feeling that the only way things like that are going to happen in this type of an economy is if we can have a specified tax, which I hate to say tax because especially now it's just a bad time for taxes, but a specified reason why we need money. But you know, the thing that's really cool about our town, we had an old park, Millennium Park, well, Memorial Park, and the structures were getting just broken down, they were old, and it took some parents who managed to start a groundswelled effort to put together a park. And we came out and we built the park. The volunteers built it. So I really think that if there is enough, if somebody really wants it enough, and there's people who are willing to lead and to have that groundswell, there's a lot that we can do. Thank you.
Ford?
The roads in San Anselmo are deteriorating pretty drastically. We don't have money to repair them. The town tower that Lori mentioned is deteriorating. That's going to have to be fixed, but one of the special considerations of that is the family of owls that have lived in that tower for decades. And taking care of the owls is almost as important as taking care of the tower. What's the practical solution? In today's climate, one of the big issues is the amount of money that municipalities pay towards supporting employee pensions. And that comes out of the town's general fund. In order to augment the town's general fund, all that's required is 50% plus one to approve a tax. People are reluctant to do that because they're concerned that the money's not going to go towards what people want to see addressed, but instead go to service employee pensions. So the solution, I think, is, as Lori said, is to have a focused approach that's dedicated towards a specific purpose, such as generating tax money to repair roads. And that's going to take, under Prop 218, a 2/3 majority. And in order to get that 2/3 majority, you really have to have a very focused campaign. You have to have leadership. You have to have people going door to door, and you really have to generate a lot of support. I think the support is there, and people will do it, and that's probably what we're going to have to do in order to deal with our infrastructure situation.
Doug?
Well, we agree on the need, unfortunately, for a tax that's dedicated. I spoke in front of the town council recently when they were 4-1 in favor of that tax recently that would not have been dedicated, and I opposed it. That tax measure did go down, and I'm glad it did. It wouldn't have been dedicated. Let's talk about the original question, which was deferred maintenance. We have to be realistic, and we're going to have to defer some maintenance on certain things. The biggest problem we have, indeed, is the roads, and we have to look at the worst part of the roads. When a road's PCI, which is a measurement of its deterioration, gets below a certain point, then the repair costs rise drastically. Unfortunately, Ford's right. We don't have the money right now to fix the roads. And Lori's right, we're slurring the main roads. Those are the roads that are in pretty good shape, and we need to slurry them. That is just a light coat on top, which keeps them in good shape. We're going to have to look at the worst roads, and we are, and we're fixing what we have to. We're going to have to defer certain things till we have a better economic situation. I'm in favor of, unfortunately, along with my two colleagues, of having a measured, dedicated tax. We already have a pension tax. We may have to alter that. You know, that pension wasn't put in by bad people. It was put in during a different economic time. And we simply have to face the economic situation we're in. We're going to have to work together with our employees, with our management, and with our citizens. We're going to have to defer some maintenance, and we're going to have to look at putting some tax measure where we know where that money's going, and we can be assured that what we want done is going to get done.
Kelly's going to ask the next question and start with Ford responding.
This is certainly going to be an appropriate question for you. One of the many things that the town hasn't been able to spend money on and that has had a devastating effect in downtown is flooding and flood control. What role do you think the town can play specifically in alleviating flooding?
That's a big question, because the agency that's charged with remedying flooding is the Marin County Water Conservation and Flood Control District. What the town can do, and ultimately is going to have to do, is participate in raising money, whether it's from grants, matching funds, or some other source, to remedy the blockages in the creek. The blockages are primarily bridges at Nokomis, at Madrone, further downstream, and buildings right in the middle of town by where Orchid Thai restaurant is, that when the water reaches a certain level, buildings block it and it spills over, and there's flooding. So exactly what the town can do, besides what we're already doing, which is supporting the plan that's being developed that's aimed at remediating flooding, the amount of money, again, it comes down to money, and that's really the difficulty. And another difficulty is, I don't know what's going to happen weather-wise, but if we start getting really torrential rainfalls, we're going to be in a lot of trouble anyway, because it's not, we can do all the remediation in the world, but that's not going to change the reality that the Ross Valley is effectively a floodplain. And if you get enough water coming out of the sky and out of the hills in the water district, no matter what you do, you're still going to have flooding. So the direct answer is that we continue to do what we're doing in terms of supporting the flood remediation that's being planned now.
Doug?
Thanks. Well, the first thing is, I want to be very clear. I was against the flood lawsuit. I thought it was a waste of time. It was a waste of money. It was legally untenable, and it wasn't going to succeed. It didn't succeed. We need to move on with flood mitigation. And Ford's right. We live in a flood zone. The Ross Valley is a flood zone. We can't fix it. We can repair it to an extent and mitigate it. The bridges are the problem. Mountain View Bridge is actually the worst bridge. We can't fix the bridges. First, there's 182 in-channel measures that are already planned to mitigate the floods and how much they can damage our town. They have to begin at the lower end of the flow. We can't start at the top. We have to work our way from the bottom up. The first thing that needs to happen is we need to put together water retention facilities. Some of them are planned. Phoenix Lake, White Hill School, Memorial, and Red Hill Park. The problem with Red Hill is it may not be prepared for that now, and there may be some work when that field runs to its cycle, the end of the cycle has to be repaired. But at any rate, that's the first thing that needs to happen. After that, the bridges can be attacked, and yeah, it's a huge project. The numbers, we don't even know. What's being bandied about is $100 million. Parcel 4 is an area of San Anselmo and Ross that was originally planned for cement. Thank God that never happened in the 60s. But the result of that is that the Army Corps of Engineers had that plan and still has it on the books, and therefore there's a 98.1% matching fund by the Army Corps of Engineers for that section. So that's very helpful. But it's an enormous amount of work to be done, and we need to work together. The town is working with the rest of the communities. I think I'm the right person to do that, in addition to people who are working on it from other towns. And I think we should move forward and do the best we can.
Laurie?
Thank you. Let me tell you that I can speak from the experience of somebody who's been flooded. We flooded in Fairfax in 2005. We also flooded at Brookside School, lower campus. I was there, my husband was over in Fairfax dealing with that one. So it can be a real catastrophe. It really can. And there are things that need to be done, I agree. These gentlemen have definitely talked about things that have been done. I would like to say that I think the flood committee, or the flood, sorry, their whole name, I don't have it, but the flood control committee, they've done an incredible job with the ideas that they've come up with and all the measures that they need. And I think the best thing that we can do as a town is to support them. We can make sure that the citizens know what's going on, understand the communication. I do know that the Flood Control Committee has also put itself in a place where it is at the head of the line for getting a lot of the matching funds. So I think that's a very positive thing. The detention basins that Doug was referring to, as far as Red Hill, we just got Red Hill Community Park built. So what we need to do is wait until the field has run its course before we can do anything with that. White Hill, it would be wonderful to get a new field there. They've got great ideas there. I also think that they're very creative with their thinking on the retention basin at Phoenix Lake, to where when they know that there's a huge storm coming, some of the flood waters can be, or some of those waters can be let loose so that there is a place to catch those waters. As Doug said, it has to be done all the way down the line. It's not going to do any good to have the catch basins. It's not going to do any good to raise the bridges or clear out the silt if there's a blockage down below. So I think it's super important for the towns to work together to make sure that it really does go all the way to the end, all the way to the ocean. Thank you.
Annie's going to ask the next question, and then we'll start with Doug.
People who live other places are quite startled when I talk about the amount of local government that we have in Marin County, with 19 school districts and 11 municipalities and all the little special districts and utility districts. And you wonder whether they are essentially inefficient that way. So when I researched this, San Anselmo, there was a lot to read about, suggestions about consolidation and sharing services, and even Peter Breen saying a city of Ross Valley with 7 council members. Right. So, what do you think about consolidation then?
Well, I favor consolidation, and I spoke in favor of it recently at the town council. That was a consolidation that made sense. The Twin Cities Police have run an operation that is similar and works well with the San Anselmo Police Department. The Ross Valley Fire District has done the same with Fairfax, Sleepy Hollow, and San Anselmo, and now Ross is coming in. It makes perfect sense. There's other ways to consolidate. When you consolidate, though, you have to be careful that you're putting in matching organizations where it can save money. And most importantly is, it really needs to start from the top. Fortunately, Twin Cities Chief Cusimano and our Chief Maynard worked together and supported the idea. Absolutely, it makes sense. Now, there's a block and a half or 2 blocks on San Francisco Avenue that is actually unincorporated, and it is officially patrolled by the Sheriff's Department, which doesn't make any sense. Sleepy Hollow is similarly patrolled by the Sheriff's Department, and I'm not sure that makes any sense. The police department in some other areas that are unincorporated have to actually leave the town of San Anselmo and then come back in order to get to the places they're covering. That makes no sense. I really think we need to work with the sheriff and see if we can't find a way for him to save money too, and to turn those areas over to the San Anselmo Police Department, and of course the matching funds that would come with that service. It's really the San Anselmo Police Department that are going to be there. There are other ways to consolidate. We have to do this. There's purchasing, there's a myriad of avenues businesses that are private look at to save money. And we've got to run, and I'm not saying government's a business, it's not, it's a service. It's a service that has to serve the community and think of the citizens first, but it's also got to be run efficiently. And we've got to look at every penny. Someone the other day said to me, you know, some of those things we're looking at don't add up to a lot. Yeah, but when you do a lot of them, it does add up to a lot. And we've got to do a lot of them.
Lori?
I agree that I think it's a wonderful thing that the fire and police departments have done the consolidation. I think that they've got the right ideas. The fact that Ross is thinking about coming in with the fire district now is great. And as Doug said, it is coming from the top in that area as well as in the ranks. They're all comfortable with that. But I also think that beyond that, we have to learn to consolidate with supplies, our insurance, our consultants, maybe our HR, human resources. Having worked with the school districts, all 19 of them, I do understand that there's a lot of them, but I do know that that's a very good model that Mary Jane Burke has pulled together. She's brought all of those districts together in a way that we work together. If we had buying power like they do, for instance, let's say San Rafael's got a really good a good buying power for paper or something simple. If San Anselmo can get in on that too, you're going to be talking about getting an even lower price. So we're not just talking people, we're talking supplies, we're talking, it could be building material. There's so many different ways that you can become a group to become stronger. Thank you.
Ford?
I'm going to approach it a little more philosophically. We're in a circumstance where there are increasingly large numbers of people. There's less and less money to go around. And so when you have, like we do in Marin County, multiple jurisdictions that effectively duplicate services, there's a lot of waste. And I think what's going to happen is that the more the pressure is brought to bear from the numbers of people increasing and the amount of money dwindling, that we're going to be forced to be in a position where we have to cooperate with one another. We have to cooperate in order to maintain the quality of life that we enjoy and that we've become accustomed to. In San Anselmo, I supported and was in the lead of our council members the move by our police department to share services with Twin Cities. That is largely the result of the personalities involved. Chief Maynard and Chief Cusimano fit. I kidded them that they were dating and were they going to date anybody else? Because other jurisdictions are looking at our model and saying, we're interested and we want to do the same thing. So in sum, I think consolidation really it's the wave of the future. It's happening with respect to sewage districts because when you have little tiny entities that don't have a lot of resources, but they're all doing the same thing, if you consolidate and put them together, they're going to be more efficient.
Kelly, you have a question? Start with Lori.
Great. In the Ross Valley, San Anselmo and Fairfax are often considered sister cities, but Fairfax is known for taking a lot stronger stances on things like plastic bags, smart meters, marine clean energy, while San Anselmo has always been, a little slower. What countywide or regional issues would you use your office to advocate for, be it the ones I just listed or others?
I think it's very important. You brought up environmental factors, and as a matter of fact, I was thinking about that tonight, that I wouldn't mind supporting the ban on plastic bags myself, and it's something that I would bring up. I don't think we need them. I think we're training ourselves to take our bags to the stores, and there's no reason that we can't. There's so many of us that do it already. I would like to, I think communication is important with everyone, letting them know what we can all do to make San Anselmo a better place. Whether it be within the town, communication within the town, or whether it be, let's say that there's something, for instance, the pensions costs, or the pensions and the way they've all worked. Maybe it would help if all the towns could get together, not just San Anselmo or just Fairfax and San Anselmo, but the towns could get together and we could do some lobbying. Up in Sacramento, that was a very effective model for the school district. Again, Mary Jane Burke would put that together. And we used to go up there and we would see legislators, once a year. And we didn't always get our way, but we got our voices heard. And I think that's extremely important. I don't think we necessarily have to come out with a stand on every single issue, but to the things that are important for our town and our communities, I think it's very important to come out on issues and to try and follow through with them. Not just say it, but follow through with them and try and do some legislation. Thank you.
Ford?
I have used my office to deal with region-wide issues. One of the biggest ones was when MMWD was pushing hard to build a desalination plant in San Rafael and to suck water out of the San Francisco Bay, less than a mile away from where the sewage plant discharged its waste. That made no sense to me because in Marin, we're blessed with 5 or 6 wonderful reservoirs that catch pure rainwater. And the name of the game for me is to live within our means, to pursue the approach that less really is more. And what desalination, had it gone through, would have done would have been to have supported tens of thousands of more people in Marin County, which is something we don't need. Another issue that I used my office to try to prevent has been the installation of smart meters. Smart meters to me appear, aside from their privacy invasion aspect, to really be a greenwashed ploy by PG&E to be able to impose tiered ratings so that if you use power at certain times of the day, it's going to be more expensive. The third issue that I've gone to bat with respect to was the excessive rate increase that was proposed by the Ross Valley Sanitary District. Instead of putting pipe in the ground, it was engaging in needless litigation, and we actually had to spend $4.7 million to buy back a piece of property that was ours to begin with, and I think that's wrong.
Doug?
Well, first off, let me talk about bags. As any of the cashiers at Safeway would tell you, I don't carry paper bags, I don't use plastic bags. My theory is very simple. If I can't carry it, I can't afford it. So there's no bags with me. It hasn't been in a long time. I think we can affect change across the state, and I think that's on a myriad of issues. I'm also opposed to the smart meters. My understanding is they're not even UL rated. Underwriters Laboratory rates everything from pencil sharpeners to every electronic device around. And my understanding is they're not even UL underwritten. So the only problem I have with smart meters, first off, we haven't stopped them in San Anselmo, and that's because it's a state issue. I agree with Lori. What we need to do is have our town council work together with other town councils, go to Sacramento and lobby, just like businesses lobby. Talk to the governors, talk to the legislators and our representatives, and work on issues that can affect us across the county and across the rest of the state. That's what we need to do. And I'm not opposed to what Ford did on desalination. I think that's great. I don't favor the desalination plant either, mostly because I think of the energy that it would cost. I don't know whether it was a plan to bring in 100,000 more people or it was a plan to have water for the future, but the energy required for that makes no sense. That's why they're only built in the Middle East, where they have all their own oil. I want to work with other members of the council. I want to make sure that we have an annual journey to Sacramento, that we plan that with other towns, not just in Marin, but throughout the state. And we talk about issues that are important to our citizens, and we get some work done. Thank you.
Annie, that's going to ask a question. We'll start with Ford.
Mm-hmm. Mine's a bit of a follow-up to this one, which is that it's sometimes a surprise to new council members to find that they serve on committees that are at the county level. They serve on county and sometimes even regional. And I wonder if you have an idea about what are the issue that you'd like to, what kind of a committee you'd like to serve on?
Well, I serve on the Marin Telecommunications Agency that's responsible for the facilities where we are right now. Also on the Transportation Authority of Marin, and as an alternate on Marin Clean Energy. And it's really Marin Clean Energy that I'm the most excited about. That was a proposition that's technically really, really complex. Technically in terms of buying and selling energy, technically in terms of financing, and then practically in terms of having to push against the naysayers, having to push against critics. having to push against a lot of public criticism. And Marin Clean Energy is succeeding. It's succeeding to the extent that jurisdictions all the way from Little Ross to Monster, Novato have now changed their mind, and where before they said no, recently they've said yes, we want to become members of Marin Clean Energy. And I think that is the sterling example here in Marin County that I'm proud of having been a part of, because it's actually government the way it's supposed to be. It's doing something. It's not just having long, tedious meetings that are excruciating, but actually producing something, and producing something that's really exciting, and producing something that is bringing us to meet the challenges of the future. And that's what local government is supposed to do.
Doug?
Well, I think the answer to that is a little premature. You really have to, first off, be elected, and then you have to talk to the other councilors and see who's already serving in other capacities. Before I say that, I think that that's what's important to do. I do want to do this. I want to work on transportation issues. I'm opposed to the SMART plan as it is. It's not what we voted for. It's costing wildly too much money. It's been cut back drastically from what the original plans were. The only interconnected transportation system that makes sense for a train, which I supported at the time, is one that goes all the way from Sonoma to the water, at best. Hopefully, at some point in the future, it could get to San Francisco in some manner besides a ferry. That's phenomenally expensive, but that's the dream. What it is now is scaled back to San Rafael. So you're getting on a bus, to a bus stop, to another bus, to a ferry, to the city. It doesn't make any sense. What makes less sense is that during this economic time, when my company's costs are going down, not costs are going down, but I can't charge as much as I could 2 years, 3 years, 4 years ago, when all of my competitors are doing the same thing, when car dealerships are cutting better deals, when housing costs in certain areas are cheaper for certain products, why the cost of SMART is going up in this economy does not make sense. There may be a fine answer. I haven't heard it yet. I've heard we have a well-paid person in charge of it who has no train experience. He has Marin experience, but he has no train experience. Look, I haven't seen the numbers of how many passengers that are realistic. I've seen from 1,200 to 10,000. I haven't seen what people expect to pay for a ticket for that. I haven't seen any numbers that make any sense in any business way for that project to move forward. And so I'd like to work on a committee where we're talking about transportation issues that make sense.
Lori?
It was a big surprise to me when I got on the Ross Valley School Board that there were a lot of different committees to be on. I didn't really realize it, but you know what? I embraced it. It was great. I learned so much. I was on the Red Hill Community Park Joint Powers Association with the town and the school district. I was on the Marin Teachers Network. I was a co-chair for that. The exciting thing about being on any committee is the fact that you learn so much and you can bring it back to your fellow council people and your town and let them know everything that's out there. And I know that everybody divvies up and goes to different types of committees and they come back and report on them. And I think that's a really important thing. We're not in a bubble. We're much bigger than that. We've got to see the big picture. As far as what committees that I would hope to be on, anything environmental would be very interesting, open space. I could fight Ford for his that he likes so much, but I guess I won't. I wouldn't mind helping with the town businesses and trying to deal with landlords. I also have an interest in the Transportation Authority of Marin because I was on that from the very beginning. I was on the committee that managed to get the tax instated in the first place. And mainly in my case, it was for the kids, it was for those crossing guards, it was for safe routes to schools, as well as our roads, of course. But I wouldn't mind working with them again and seeing where that would go. And that's not necessarily part of SMART. It should be separate from SMART. It was not designed to be SMART. So I've been interested in a lot of different areas. I'm game for going wherever I need to be. Thanks.
Okay, we have time for one more question, so Kelly will ask that and we'll start with Doug.
Okay, great. We'll do a really hard one for
Okay.
the last one. Ford mentioned earlier that the floor area ratio ordinance, there was a big fight in the last election
Right.
last year. Do you support an ordinance that would limit the size of houses in town? And would you support a view ordinance to protect people's views in town?
Well, I did. So that ordinance was passed by the citizens. So that's how that ordinance came to place. It was not done by the council or any council members. It was done by the citizens. And I voted for it. And I voted for it for a simple reason that the hillsides had that ordinance for a long time. What was happening was an angst between neighbors. You have your own property, you have property rights, you have the right to build, but there is a small town feel to San Anselmo. When the houses get too big, you have interfered in each other's views, interfered in each other's enjoyment of your backyards, and what happened a lot of times is the digging, like at 10 Foss, which was the famous one, where they dug up the ground, changing the flow of water, which is wrong, and neighbors pitted against neighbors. You know, one of the things we need to know is what are we going to do? By having a floor area ratio, we didn't please everybody, but what we did have is rules that we all know. If you have a large piece of property, you have more opportunity to build. If you have a small piece of property and you build a monster home, you're really infringing on your neighbors. And that's why that bill passed. And I supported it at the time. The citizens voted for it, and that's how that bill got done. Didn't get done by any town councilor.
Lori?
I agree that limiting the size of the homes is very important because I don't want to live 2 feet away from my neighbor. If I wanted to, I would live somewhere else. I don't think my neighbors want to live 2 feet away from me either. So I agree that that's very important. I think from what I've understood, from when I've talked to different people in town, perhaps some of the language that's in that particular floor area ratio might need to be tweaked a little bit. I don't know this for sure. It's something I'd like to look into. The way I understand that it works, it is based on basically floor area, and it doesn't matter if it's floor that's got a 10-foot ceiling or a 20-foot ceiling or a 2-foot ceiling, which, you know, that's not living space. So I don't know whether it's perfect the way it is. I doubt it's perfect. You know, things are never perfect. But it's something I'd be interested in looking into. I most definitely am not interested in covering more of the land. I think our land and our ground, we need it to breathe. And maybe I'm sounding silly, but I think we need our trees and our ground, and I don't want to cover it with cement. I lived in Southern California for 5 years, and I am so glad I'm not there anymore. I am so glad I dragged my husband up here. It's a good thing. As far as views, yeah, I don't think it's nice to block your neighbor's views. We built on our house, and our neighbors had some requests. They requested we put some trees up so they didn't have to look at our walls, and so we did. You know, if people work together, I think it can work out. We have to start with the rules, but I also think you need to have people communicating and understanding each other. Thank you.
Ford?
I'll start with two Doug Kelly generated issues. First, the way that the FAR came into being was as a result of a lot of very hard work that was done among a subcommittee that comprised of different interest groups. On one side, you had the people who wanted to restrict monster homes, and on the other side, you had architects and construction people that didn't want any limitation at all. The ultimate result of that was the view ordinance. Because there was so much public controversy with respect to that, what our council did was make the decision to put it to the voters and not just go willy-nilly ahead without getting the feedback. And so our work ultimately was vindicated by the voters who supported that. With respect to the reference to 10 Foss, it was directly out of that that I brought and the council enacted an excavation ordinance because there at 10 Foss, what it was the architectural technique that if you have to respect the height limitations for construction, forget it, we'll dig down deep. Now the most important one, or not the most important, but very important, is the view ordinance. I've tried to enact a view ordinance twice so far. We need a view ordinance. The construction industry and certain architects don't want a view ordinance because it gets in the way of their flexibility and their profits. Our views are everything in the Ross Valley, and views can be protected in Tiburon. We can protect them in Ross.
Well, that ends the questions. Before the candidates make their closing statements, I want to give you some important dates. Election Day is Tuesday, November 8th. The last day to register to vote is October 24th, 2 weeks before the election, or to re-register if you've moved since you last voted. Requests for absentee ballots must be received by the Elections Department by November 1st, a week before the election, and early voting opens at the Civic Center, room 121, on October 10th. If you go to the League's smartvoter.org website and enter your street address and zip code, you'll be able to see your own ballot with links to the candidates, issues, ballot measures, and information about the voting process itself. Now the candidates will make their closing statements of 1 minute, and we'll start with Lori.
Thank you. To kind of reiterate what I think about San Anselmo and how I'd like to keep San Anselmo. I would like to keep it a safe, family-friendly town by being fiscally responsible, by helping to bring business to or keep business in San Anselmo, helping to encourage local buying in San Anselmo, local purchasing, and I'd like to get the community even more involved. I know that there's a couple of different areas where it might be fun to have another little park for their kids, but that's a groundswell community thing. But it's something that we can accomplish if we really want to. In any case, the skills that I bring to this and to the council, fiscal responsibility. I'm a CFO. I understand a balance sheet. I understand cost accounting. I learned all about that with the school board. I do my homework. I always do my homework. I listen, I learn, I understand. I try to see all viewpoints and bring people together. Thank you.
Doug?
Thanks very much. I'm a local business owner. I understand how to make a budget, I understand how to read a budget, and I understand fiscal issues. I think that's important to have on this council. I'm also a dad. I understand the community in ways that I think many of you do as well. I have kids at Drake. I got kids at Brookside. It's my first year not having somebody at White Hill for a long time. I've coached. I've been down at Red Hill and Memorial and Oktoberfest. And I share many values that people have, but what I bring to this council, or would bring to this council, is a business attitude. And I don't think everybody there needs to be a business person. And Lori certainly does have skills as well. I'm not disparaging her. I'm just not running her campaign. I'm running my campaign. I think we need to have a business person on that council who knows how to look at these budgets, who knows how to dig down deep in them. Because not all of the budgets are really pulled apart, and it's hard, and it's time-consuming, and it's grueling, and it's not fun, but it needs to happen.
Ford?
Well, first I want to thank the League of Women's Voters for providing this forum. And next, I want to thank the viewers for caring enough to pay attention and watch this program. As mayor of the town in San Anselmo for the last year, I've led our council and our town. Our ship is afloat. I'm endorsed by the Marin Democratic Party, recommended by the Marin Women's Political Action Committee, endorsed by the Marin County Firefighters, San Anselmo Chamber of Commerce, Marin Young Democrats, 13 elected officials, and dozens of community leaders. If re-elected, I promise I'll continue to bring to bear in our public process the honest accountability, fair treatment, warmth, humor, competence, and hard work that I'm known for. I deserve your respect and trust for another term as your councilman, and I'm proud to ask for your vote.
Great job. Thank you to the candidates and our timekeeper, Linda Deere, and to Kelly Dunleavy and Annie Laser for their questions, and thank you for watching.